welcome to TV Toastmasters. And thank you for joining our program, Compass to Organization Strategies. This is an exciting conversation regarding strategies, innovation, and other business trends. I am Dion Baccus, co-host this evening, and I'm joined with my colleague, Jimmy Godard. Now, you're in a real treat this evening to get to listen to Jimmy discuss a really exciting topic. Jimmy is an innovative, dynamic IT program leader. He has a ton of experience that has been tested in some of the most difficult situations. He has an absolute knack of gathering a lot of information and giving you both a high level and tactical view of it in a way that you can understand. It's fantastic to get to spend some time with Jimmy tonight. Jimmy, welcome to the program.
Hello, Dion. Thank you. Dion, it is a pleasure to co-host with you. Such a wonderful opportunity. Considering your background, you're so passionate about information systems and lean, agile organizational design. And your extended background in governance, management, leadership with a flat and collaborative approach is amazing. So I'm really looking forward to share some insights with you, considering your vast experience in project management as well, and also leadership. So our audience is indeed for a great treat.
Thank you, Jimmy, for those kind words. Really, I appreciate it. So let's get started with the program. Tonight, we're going to take a second to think about remote work. So, Jimmy, tell me, how does remote work support Agile in today's business environment?
This is a relevant question, Dion, and we can construct the argument that the adoption of remote work supports agility from the viewpoint of flexibility, speed, and adaptability. Remote work is when the employees work from home, or at least one day a month. It is about taking the work to the employees instead of taking the employees to work. Many consider it a win-win situation. Now, agility is the ability to exploit profitable opportunities in a volatile marketplace. It's about the economy of scope instead of the economy of scale. The IROCAS Institute defined agility as a manufacturing system with the capabilities to meet rapid changing needs in the marketplace. And we have to understand the importance of this because agility requires organization to be flexible and to have a rapid response structure to changes that customer demands may bring. One can extend the definition further to not only include the changes in the market that may come from economic perspective, but also for health reasons, such as acute respiratory illnesses. Employees who have access to remote work, they may work from home a day that they might otherwise have to take a sick day to comply with the stay at home when sick policy. Now we talk about agility. Remote work also supports agility with speed. Usually speed has to do with quickness, the ability to respond fast to emerging technology, customer requests, and market dynamics. It can also be the quick turnaround to enable workers to work from home during a pandemic episode like the COVID-19. It was such a great example to see how companies could quickly allow their employees to work from home during the stay-at-home orders from different states, from different governors in the US. Remote work supports agility with adaptability. Adaptability is the ability for organizations to respond to threats, opportunities in the marketplace, and to changing demands as well. Companies that were flexible during the pandemic episode by having their employees work from home were able to maintain at a minimum their core services. Some schools were able to flip the switch from in-class learning to online learning. So organizations that can respond to market changes quickly, who are able to adapt with resources, are fully agile, and is what we can refer to business agility.
Wow, Jimmy, it's a lot of good points there. I really like the points that you've made around how remote work allows businesses to have that business continuity. You know that cybersecurity is a big part of my background, so business continuity and business continuity planning is something we think about in that profession often. And I think you spoke to it very well about how you get that business continuity when you have remote work policies in place, because you can rapidly allow people to continue their knowledge work from wherever they are. It's very neat to see where the world's going with this. You know, I think technology is really taking it to the next level of how we can actually do remote work. You know, it's significantly different now with the devices we have. So that makes me really think of, why is remote work significant to the future of work? Can you talk to me about that?
Yes, Dion, it is very significant. And also with your background with cybersecurity, one can understand some risks that employers may see by having their employees working from home and connect, whether it's via VPN or connecting into their the resources in the office. But both employers and employees see the value of remote work. Employers see the benefit of diverse talent pools independent of geographical locations. You'll also the reduction of overhead, reduction of travel costs, and real estate costs. Now, from the employee's perspective, there are some good benefits. For instance, time planning, working during my productive time, right? So if I work better during the daytime, so I can remote work during the day and then take the rest of the day off doing something else that I'm very passionate about. And employees also can work while they're sick at home and save the precious sick days for emergencies, suitability to care for sick loved ones while they work. Recently, there has been an inconsistent view of the future of remote work. Now, the literature, the research, and what we do in practice have not yet agreed on best practices for merging remote work without sacrificing employee engagement and organizational culture. There is an absence of a baseline or accepted organizational theories in identifying and explaining what happens when people remote work. We have seen major companies such as Best Buy, Yahoo, IBM, and Bank of America, to cite just those few, that have revoked remote work privileges and at a high level. Now, the accepted argument has been it has the perception to damage communication, collaboration, and teamwork. The most significant barrier literature has revealed to remote work by a wide margin is management fear and mistrust. The typical remote worker is usually about 45 years of age compared to just 41% of the overall workforce. Now, the data does support a positive trend to remote work for future of work. Remote work has emerged over the past decade from a fringe benefit to the modern workplace that it is today. Now, in the year 2010, President Barack Obama signed the Telework Enhancement Act, stands for also T. It makes remote work one of the most popular public management innovations. The federal government finally realized the need to attract talents from the new upcoming generation that value work and life balance. Regular remote work grew by 115% in the past decade, nearly 10 times faster than the rest of the workforce. In the year 2016, 40% or more US employers offered some type of flexible workspace options.
Well, Jimmy, I think some of the key things that you said there that I'd like to explore some more are a baseline and that mistrust that management has that the culture will break down, and that communication and the ability to get work done is going to be sacrificed in a remote work world. I recently listened to a podcast on Sam Harris. It was actually episode 194, and he was discussing remote work with the founder and owner of a company called Automatic. And they have been a 100% remote company since 2005. It was fascinating to hear how that company worked because their culture grew up out of it, because it's always been that, versus people that are trying to do some kind of transformation. And why I think that's so interesting of a topic to talk about is where you went later in your conversation, and that is the new workforce. So the millennials will make up 75% of the workforce by 2025. They have a different comfort level of using computers. They've had them their entire life. They also have different wants and needs than previous generations have had. So I think there's a lot there we can maybe unpack or touch on a little bit more on that future of work and how significant remote work is to it. Right now, we're coming up on a break, so we're going to take a few minutes, and we'll see you in a minute. What do you think?
So far, so good.
I think we're doing a lot better than last time.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, we were like right on time. Do you need water or a break? Are you ready to go?
I'm good.
You want to hit it then?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Last 11. Three, two, one. Jimmy, before we went on break, we were discussing, sorry, pause. Three, two, one. Welcome back to our program. Jimmy, before we took our break, we were discussing why remote work is significant to the future. And I brought up a couple topics there for you around companies that were born out of being remote 100%, and also the increase of millennials in the workforce. Do you have anything you'd like to touch on there?
Yes, Dion. I mean, this is very interesting when we're talking about remote work, where you have some organizations, many of the management team pretty much work remote, and we have to come up to the realization that not all industry. You're talking about manufacturing, you're talking about the labor workforce, the service industry, the front line. Most likely, those are going to have to be physical. But the knowledge workers, the management team in some industry, most likely will leverage remote work, because when you have a company and people do not have to show up into the office, and you have the leverage and the possibility to hire resources all over the world, one must ask the question, why you're not doing it? Because you are leaving qualified, talented resources on the shoreline. So it makes sense for the future of work in some of those industries where management will recognize the need to acquire talents all over the place to allow their employees to work from home, and also to balance the true work and life together.
Yeah, I really like where you went with that, where you even went beyond the conversation of millennials and when it went into the global economy, because you're 100% correct, right? In the fact of this technology doesn't hold you just inside your borders. Anywhere on the globe is now available to be part of your workforce. And English as a spoken language has become more widespread. The ability to use these tools, the ability to communicate, even though you're not from the same culture, has become easier and easier for us as a species, because all this technology really has shrunk the world, right? Between the traveling on planes and the ability to connect remotely, the world's got much smaller. So as a business, you really do have to consider, how do you make this part of your culture? How do you make this part of the norm? Because you are going to have pressure from the next generation who treasures flex time and the ability to have autonomy while they work and be purposeful and masterful about the work that they do. And has also having that knowledge work can be done really from anywhere. And if you become proficient at doing remote work, then it within itself is its own culture, and it can also be very successful. And so those pressures are definitely on the horizon. So that makes me really start to think about, what can teams, organizations, and individuals do to become more proficient at remote work? How do they not just carbon copy what they do in the office and try to do it in the digital space, but how do they really get good at remote work and begin to actually leverage that medium in its own way?
Yes, Dion, that's a valid question. We must address it, because most companies, they monitor two key elements: efficiency and effectiveness. But proficiency is really a key metric that one must pay attention to. It is essential that all the stakeholders that you mentioned, organization, teams, individuals, must address the term of proficiency. We must outline our baseline here. First, our premise to be proficient at remote work, we have to understand what that is. We can address it from the prism that it means to influence remote work on the effectivity, productivity, satisfaction, stress, and leisure time of the employee. Second, we have the challenge that remote work does not have a standard definition. So to address this question, because we're going to use the definition, remote work means somebody working from home or somebody working a percentage time that the employee works from home. So with that in mind, also we come with the understanding that the employer works from home can easily connect to the office. The employees then become what we can consider as a virtual employee. Now, a virtual employee is available regardless of the location. Then a team, a group of virtual employees become what we consider as a virtual team, right? Because that's why usually that's the moniker we assign to them. So organizations that support remote work often invest and migrate toward virtual teams due to the rising travel costs, global dispersion of the talents, and the availability of technical communications. I can hear the words of Margaret O'Neill, a professor for Stanford Graduate School of Business, who once said, a lot of organizations create virtual teams with almost no understanding of the unique implications of that decision. Yes, the fact that many of us, you can work from home, I can work from home, and we can connect together to become a team, does not really mean we are a proficient virtual team. The importance and value of the global team, of virtual team, cannot be overstated. As a virtual employee, as a virtual team member, currently, I'm fortunate to work with great talents around the world that only not compile that probably will not be the same if we're in one location. So my team includes members from India, Singapore, London, Brazil, Spain, Canada, many in the East Coast as well. So some of the benefits that organization may reap from virtual teams is to have everybody work at different times, but everybody can work together to provide a quality product. However, we cannot lose focus also on some of the challenges that virtual teams face. Virtual teams have a different structure that employees must embrace to embrace the flexibility to work across time space, because my time currently right now is a different time zone for somebody else. So when I'm sleeping, somebody's awake. When somebody's sleeping, I'm awake. So we have to coordinate to schedule our meetings at a time that is appropriate for both of us. Team members also should be mindful of their communication and interpersonal skills. collaboration, action planning, problem solving, decision making, and the ability to manage change or to embrace some agility on how they work. Now, teams should also foster some face-to-face contact with each other. I will tell you this, for as long I have been a remote worker, I have not been able to see any technology that can replace the value of human interaction face-to-face. Team leaders who do not see how hard resources are working on their workload may be prompted to give them more work, which is why face-to-face is a benefit. And this becomes a disadvantage for virtual team. Now, the team should also agree on the time zone differences that may hinder their ability to collaborate. There is also the tendency for one team member to belong to various project teams. Therefore, they cannot devote the appropriate time on any single team. And usually this happens in a matrix organization. So if an organization does not have that kind of structure, it may not be a problem. The last matter I would highly recommend for virtual teams to keep in mind is the fact that some team members may be reluctant to share information with one another to gain the spotlight. Because I have experience where you can come into a team meeting, somebody has the information and they want to be the one to get the spotlight. Because we have to recognize that, but it's human beings, and there must be training on how to be part of a virtual team. Being a virtual resource should not mean being on an exile island either. So management, team members must recognize the value of virtual team, but also some of the drawbacks so they can plan accordingly so that their team can be truly a proficient virtual team.
Very interesting, very interesting. I heard you speak to a lot of challenges in there. And so I think kind of in summary, what you're saying is what people need to do to become proficient is be really prepared to figure out how you're going to actually track productivity. You know, that could bring up a whole nother conversation, gamification, right? And leaderboards, things of that sort. So how are you tracking productivity? How are you measuring capacity, making sure that people aren't getting overloaded? I mean, you had a wealth of things in there. I think some of the most dynamic or most important are defining remote work. What is remote work to you and your organization? And understanding that you're now in a world of virtual teams, and that has its own set of challenges. And so you need to get trained and educated on how to overcome these challenges. Otherwise, you're probably going to get stuck in the mud. So you said a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, same here, Dion. It was a fun conversation, and I hope we have provided some knowledge to our viewers, as I have learned much from you today as well. So Dion and I, your co-host, everyone, we thank you for joining us. We will see you next time for another fun and exciting episode.
That's all the time we have today for this program or this episode. Thank you for joining us, and I really hope you enjoyed this conversation on remote work.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me
incredible confidence,
great listening skills,
poise,
great leadership skills,
the ability to speak in public,
strength, a captive audience,
quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
sales skills,
opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
Wonderful way to meet people.
Networking. Strength. It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Toastmasters helped me land a kick-butt job.
I sang at one of my table topic speeches, and people liked it and applauded.
My business is doing great, and I'm very, very grateful to Toastmasters.
It's been a great experience for me.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for giving me so much confidence.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for everything.